Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Getting Baked, the official baked goods podcast. We have a very special food-based episode here for you today that I think some of you might like and some of you might curse me for ever bringing it into existence. Either way, it's a very polarizing topic. I'm sure many of you will have very strong opinions on it, and that opinions will be about quesadillas. There's a whole science behind quesadillas and how important their existence is into the world. But before we talk about quesadillas, we have to take a step back, and I have to tell you about the video schedule for this podcast. This is actually part one of a two-parter. This video will cover primarily theoretical concepts. I'll talking about things that may not exist yet. But in the second part of this video, which will probably come out sometime next week, I will be bringing these theories to reality, and most likely the results will be terrible. So that will be something very exciting to look out for. So the background information you all need to know before listening to this podcast is that the food pyramid is a lie. The government and all that bullshit, Michelle Obama, she's a liar. Everything you know about what your diet should be is a lie. Let's take a look at the traditional food pyramid, which is nothing but lies. If you take a very close look at this pyramid, you will see almost everything about it is wrong. It really should be called a food triangle, because if you look on the side, there's nothing fucking on that side of the pyramid. It's just a 2D triangle, but they're trying to pass it off as a pyramid to appeal to the Egyptian Americans or whatever. But it's alright. That dynasty has fallen. So here is what the food pyramid should actually look like. A food square in the shape of a Kraft single. Now this is very important. I don't need to explain why it's important, because you should all understand. If you know anything about food in your diet, it should be 100% cheese product. But if we're going to be technically correct about the food shape, it should be a Kraft single with bits and pieces of brown parts on them from the Lucky Charms cereal. Now this is a balanced and complete diet. And anyone that argues otherwise, well, you shouldn't argue with them, because they're wrong and you're wasting your time. You're losing brain cells. You're just hitting a wall of uselessness. There's nothing you will gain from talking to that person ever again in your life. So moving on from useless sacks of flesh, we have to talk about cheese, now that we've discussed the food shape. Cheese comes in a variety of different forms, but the two best vessels for consumption are as such: sticks and dillas. There are several reasons why these are the top two, and specifically the top two in this specific order, and we will go over them now. Cheese sticks can fit entirely into your oral cavity without needing to chew. It's just a solid stick of pure cheese. You can eat it in multiple strings if that's what you're into. You can floss with it, whatever. But the point is, it's a streamlined, finalized way of eating cheese that's been around for basically all of existence. It is the perfect way to eat cheese. And now comes the secondary cheese vessel, the quesadilla. You can almost fit this thing in your mouth, but it's just a little inefficient in a way that a stick just isn't. There is some gluten involved, so hopefully if you have some friends with a gluten allergy, you can just feed them some of these and just wipe them off the earth. And there is some chewing required, unfortunately. What we're going to be discussing today in this video is the fact that the quesadilla is an unfinalized design, and there are other ways to shape and consume cheese with the construct of a quesadilla in mind, but just picking up where the cheese engineers of the past just couldn't go with the current technology that they had at the time. We know so much more about the food shape, and what I have done today for this video is I've prepared quite a few preliminary designs at best, but they are innovative ways to consume cheese, keeping the classic quesadilla form in mind. So with all that out of the way, I think we're going to start going into my designs. Now keep in mind that all of these are simulated images ran through the best engineering software I had available to me, which was a pack of Crayola markers. But regardless, these are just preliminary sketches about what the ideal ways to eat cheese could look like in a few years. So kicking that off, we have the mac and quesadilla. This may sound simple. It may sound rudimentary. It may even sound primitive. But I have done the research, and this may be the future of quesadillas. Looking at the design, it is the typical shape of two tortillas with cheese in the middle. However, there is a third ingredient involved, and that is a whole fucking pot of mac and cheese just thrown in there in the middle. The cheesy sauce from the mac should blend with the typical quesadilla cheese quite well, and hopefully it isn't too runny. It just stays in a nice firm mixture inside the tortilla constraints. And ideally, when you eat this, the two different cheeses will sort of like swirl around your mouth, and you'll just receive a whole new sensation. Plus, it'll add some texture that the macaroni will add that just normal cheese would never do. And hopefully it's like this chewy, gooey experience for your taste buds that vastly improves upon the basic quesadilla design. So my second design is the pan case. This is another sort of simpler design. I didn't want to start off too crazy. But what this is it's basically a normal quesadilla, a typically normal quesadilla, but instead of tortillas, it has two pancakes. So hopefully the pancakes provide thickness and that density that a normal quesadilla lacks. And then of course there's the optional syrup within it to make them a little bit more moist, and hopefully that sugar will provide a little boost for your day that just normal cheese doesn't contain. And then the cheese and the syrup will mix around and provide a new experience for your mouth that will hopefully be a blast. The next design I want to talk about is the QuesadOatmeal. This is another quesadilla you would definitely eat in the morning to give you a nice boost to your day. And what it is you have the tortillas, the cheese, and then you have some oatmeal thrown in the middle. Now, we're not just talking any oatmeal. We're not just talking about some Quaker oats thrown in there. We're talking about apple cinnamon flavor with brown sugar in it. Those two flavors with the oats will provide you a great jump start to your day. Got a lot of carbs for the energy. And then the cheese, of course, is there because it's the cheese. So hopefully this is like a new take on the breakfast burrito trend going on with our fast food chains in our country. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying this one out in person. Next we have the chicken NooDilla soup. Now this is probably something you'll see in Panera in a few years, but essentially it's chicken noodle soup, but you use a quesadilla as a bowl. And now I know this has been done with typical bread bowls, but those are shit, let's be honest. All the broth from the soup just absorbs into the bread, so you end up eating soggy bread with just a bunch of toppings or soup contents, ingredients, whatever you want to call it. They're just in soggy bread, and then you start eating it and the whole thing just falls apart. It's a mess. Quesadillas, however, tortillas, if you weren't aware, have a semi-permeable membrane, much like human skin, that will prevent broth from getting in. This will provide a sturdy structure in which to scoop out the soup. And if you want to be a mad lad, You could just start eating the tortilla with the soup inside it, have all that broth just run down your chin onto your shirt, but you can eat the toppings at the same time as the quesadilla and have a lot of fun. Let's take a look at what it looks like. So you see there, we got the nice round bowl shape with the cheese in the middle of two tortillas, providing a nice kind of inside layering to the bowl. And then you have the typical chicken noodle soup ingredients, such as chicken, noodles, and I don't really know what else is in chicken noodle soup besides chicken and noodles. They probably should have included that in the name if they wanted people to know what was in it. Either way, you'll definitely see this in some Paneras in a few years, because once the CEO watches this podcast, I expect some royalty fees from them. The next design is the WaffleDilla. Similar to the pancakes, this is another breakfast quesadilla that will surely turn heads in a few years. Now what we got here, we got 2 waffles and some cheese. Now ideally, you would put the cheese on each of the waffles individually, heat that up, and then let the cheese melt into the crevices of the waffle. And then you would add more cheese and put them together. So you'd have this like bi-layering of cheese in the middle, but it's also melting into the waffle. So that will just be insane for your taste buds, I think. And then also you can add some syrup for a nice sugary, cheesy mixture in the middle. Similar to pancakes, except this one I think has more potential due to the pockets that the waffle contains. You can really melt a lot of cheese in there that will amplify the flavor. The next design I want to talk about is the QuesaDill Pickle. Now this you might see at a county fair or something. It's definitely not an everyday treat. It's like a once in a while special event. Maybe you go out with friends and you all get some quesadilla pickles to share together. And it's basically a quesadilla wrapped around a pickle. Similar to the pigs in a blanket, where there's dough wrapped around a hot dog, except it's a pickle. Now this is a very specific choice. We could have chosen any tubular-like food. We chose pickle because the pickle has the saltiness that will just amplify the cheesy flavor from the quesadilla. And the tortilla, hopefully if it's crisp enough, will provide some crunch and texture to the pickle, which, depending on the malleableness of the inner pickle, will be very sturdy for your mouth. So let's take a look at what it looks like. It looks very comfortable wrapped in that tortilla, and I'm very excited to see how many bites I can eat this in. This might even match stick levels of one biteness if I can just slide it down the gullet. I do think I will need to chew it because my anus will be very mad at me if I don't. But I'm just, hopefully you might want to dry off the pickle beforehand, because if it's a damp pickle, you just pull that right out of the jar and put it in the tortilla. It will start eroding away because of the wetness. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But I'm really excited for this design because of the possibilities. And the last design I have for you guys today is the Lucky Charms. Now this is a design that is very near and dear to my heart. And let's just show you what it looks like. It is tortilla, cheese, and then in the middle, thrown in with the cheese, we have the brown parts from Lucky Charms. Now, we all know brown parts are the best thing in existence. So obviously this will be the best quesadilla ever created. However, another thing that will just make it better is if you marinate the entire quesadilla in milk while it's cooking. So it'll have this nice morning breakfast cereal flavor that really, you're eating a quesadilla and you're eating a bowl of cereal at the same time. I don't think there is anything in this world that can top that combo. I have dreamed about the day where I could be able to do such a task. And I really think this quesadilla will really amp up the designs for future cheese engineers and what we thought was possible. So in conclusion, I would like to thank everyone for watching or listening. We're really working on the future here. Quesadillas are no joke. They're nothing to mess around with. They are the second best way to eat cheese after all. So the work that I'm putting in now, the nights I spent grinding away in the lab, coming up with these precious ideas, will not be wasted. And I appreciate your support greatly. There is no amount of gratitude I can give to the people that are help making the future of food possible. So once again, I would like to thank you for watching or listening wherever you are. Please like and subscribe for part 2, which will most likely come out next week. It depends on when I get into the kitchen and start cooking. I'm going to make some of these designs a reality for everyone and probably have some videos of me attempting to eat them. So that'll be some good fun. And if you yourself would like to be featured in the next Getting Baked podcast, all you have to do is try to make one of these designs yourself and send me a picture or video of you eating it. And I will feature you in the podcast when I talk about that design myself. So if that's something you're interested in, keep that in mind. So thanks for watching, and peace.